Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Sam Kwak, one of the Kwak Brothers, and welcome back to day 5 of the 21 days of mental detox challenge. And today, here, guys, as you can see, this time I'm not drugged up. I promise. I know yesterday I was drugged up pretty good, but I'm still injured. You guys can see I wasn't faking it. Okay? But day 5, yesterday we talked about get more of what you want, right? Which was my favorite topic of all. But today is fairly important too, right? And the topic for today is extreme ownership, which is titled after this book, The Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. And many of you guys may have read this book before. Many of you guys seen his TEDx talk. It's the U.S. Navy commander who. Well, let me tell the story. I think telling the story might be more fruitful. So Jocko Willink is a U.S. Navy SEAL commander, right? One of the top elite U.S. Armed Forces. I mean, these guys get sent to some of the roughest part of the world to either take down a terrorist network or to rescue a high-profile target, whatever it may be. But these guys are trained fiercely, right? They're the warriors of the warriors, the modern-day Spartans. And here's Jocko Willink, who is the commander of these elite troops that get sent to do some crazy things out there. But Jocko, at one point, he's doing a mission. I believe the place is called Ramada or something like that. Yeah, somewhere in Iraq. And he gets sent out on a mission where he's got multiple different armed forces in the battlefield. So he's got his Navy, he's got the Marines in there, and he's also got the Army that is also working with the Iraqi local troops, right, that they've trained. And what ended up happening is that there was somewhat of confusion during the battlefield where the Army and the Iraqi troops were firing at the U.S. Navy, and the U.S. Navy was firing back at the U.S. Army, thinking that they were enemies. Right? I mean, this is nighttime. It gets very confusing in the battlefield. So they were shooting at each other, and they actually ended up killing one of the Iraqi friendly soldiers, and they nearly killed each other. And what ended up happening was that, of course, they found out that they were shooting at each other. They were friendly. They were firing at each other. They almost committed fratricide, right? So Jocko, being the commander, he was responsible for the battlefield. So the battle's done, right? He goes back to the command center, if you will, the headquarters. And, of course, when there's an instance like this, the top commanders come down to investigate to see what's going on. So the top investigators, the generals, right? I don't know the exact details of the story, but they all come and they're doing what's called debriefing. So anytime a military completes their mission, they do what's called debriefing to kind of talk about what happened, what was the outcome, what could have happened, and was the mission successful? So what happened was Jocko was leading this debrief to explain what happened during the battle when the U.S. Army was firing at U.S. Navy, vice versa. And Jocko really had to think, whose responsibility was this, right? Whose fault was with the situation rising? Whose fault was it? And Jocko had to think hard. Was it the Iraqi Army? Was it the U.S. Army? Was it the battlefield condition? Was it the U.S. Navy that he was commanding? And he was in charge of the battlefield. So ultimately what he had to do was he had to swallow the bitter pill and point it at himself and say, this is my fault. This is my responsibility. I have to take ownership because this is my battlefield. I am the commander here, and this is my responsibility that this near fratricide event happened. In fact, an Iraqi soldier did get killed, right? So he had to point himself as a blame. And when his boss, right, Jocko's boss, came around, and they were here to hear the debriefing. Jocko was pointing out to his soldiers, right, his SEALs, and said, "Hey, who do you think was the fault with this situation?" Right, and of course these Navy SEAls were saying, "Well, it was my fault because this happened." Another SEAL would say, "Well, it was my fault because I let you down." Another SEAL would say, "Well, it's my fault because I didn't do this, and that." And Jocko were like, "No, all of you guys are wrong. I am in charge here. Therefore, I have to take ownership. It is my fault that this situation happened." Right? It's embarrassing, right? Because, if you're leading a troop and you're firing at your own troop, thinking that they're the enemy, A pretty embarrassing story, right? So Jocko had to swallow his ego, swallow his pride, swallow the fact that he could have easily blamed it on someone else, and he took that blame on himself. But what ended up actually happening was that he was able to actually gain the trust of his superiors. He was able to gain the trust of his subordinates. He was able to gain trust from the U.S. Army, the Iraqi Army, because he took the blame and he said, hey, listen, it's my fault. Let's fix this, make sure this never happens again. But here's what's cool. When you do take the blame, when you do take ownership of a situation, whether you think it's your fault or not, but when you do take ownership of a situation and you take ownership of what's going on, you have the power, you have the authority to be able to change that situation for better, right? I remember being in an argument with a property manager, and we were going back, and there was an accident that happened, and we were trying to point fingers, right? We're like, listen, it was your fault. And that person was pointing at someone else's fault. And ultimately, I had to come down and step the feet, right? I had to come down and say, listen, this is actually my fault, right? Guys, stop the arguing. This is my fault. Let's fix it, right? Here's what I suggest, because this is my fault. This is my problem. Here's my solution that I'm going to offer, right? So sometimes if you want to change your situation, whether it's a setback, a failure, if you see this as a mistake, if you made a mistake, the best thing to do, if you want to take control of that situation, you want to take control over what solution that you're going to be able to bring to the table, you have to take ownership. You have to take the blame. And at the end of the day, if you do fix the problem, if you do take on the challenge to overcome this challenge, then you are also going to be rewarded the victory, the success of being able to conquer and overcome such challenge. So extreme ownership, by the way, I highly, highly recommend reading this book if you want to get the rest of the story and the context of what I'm referring to here. But everything that ever happens is your fault and is under your control, right? And it's not a bad thing, guys. A lot of you guys think it's a bad thing to be the one with the fault, right? Now, when there's clearly an honest mistake, when obviously someone murders somebody, obviously you don't want to be saying, well, it's my fault, right? Because you don't want to go to jail. But if you honestly kind of think through and really process in your mind and say, well, hold on, this is my business, right? This is my real estate investing business. This is my duty to be successful. And ultimately, I am the CEO of this company. Whose fault is this? Right? Obviously, you're going to have to point that at yourself and say, well, I'm the CEO, I'm the boss, I'm the real estate investor, I'm my own boss in my company. Therefore, this is my fault and I have to take care of this, right? It's my responsibility. It is my duty to make sure that whatever happens to my life is because of what I have chosen, not because of some circumstances outside of my reach. Could happen, but guess what? Still your fault. Still your life. You're still breathing oxygen. Right? It is entirely up to your choice. And when you're able to own yourself, when you're able to own that fact that everything around you, whatever happens, is under your control, only then can you really claim the prize of being a successful real estate investor / entrepreneur. So here's another story I want to give you, more of a personal story. And this is something that I've been exercising for quite a bit of time. But I'm a big fan of the Bible, right? I know some of you guys aren't, some of you guys may not be, but that's just me. In the Bible, it talks about whoever is faithful with little, whoever is responsible with little is also responsible with much, right? Whoever is dishonest with little is also dishonest with many things. Vice versa, we flip that script. If you are honest with little things, you are also honest with many things. So for me, I took that and I interpreted it to my own world and said, okay, listen, if I can be responsible for this little thing, this little task, I know I can be responsible for a much larger task. So having to digest that into my heart, right? I went from thinking here to going down to my heart. Back down, this was back when I was in college. I was living in a dorm room, right? Very small, probably 900 square feet, 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom dorm room. I had to share with 3 other guys, right? Very tight space, by the way. And I remember I was cleaning the dorm room, and I was probably the only person that cleaned. Okay, I'll just say that. Right? I'll take that stance. I was probably the only person that cleaned the dorm room, and I would wash the dishes. Very once in a while, my roommate will wash the dishes, but I was the one that mainly washed the dishes, cleaned the bathroom, cleaned the kitchen, vacuumed the floor. But the reason why I did it, I was happy to do it because I knew at the end of the day, if I took responsibility with this small little 900 square feet dorm, I know I can be responsible for a mansion, right? And lo and behold, right, whether you believe in God or universe or higher being, I personally believe in God. Lo and behold, God granted me the next level in my living situation. I was able to move from a dorm to a really nice 3-bedroom condo. Very, very nice compared to the dorm, obviously. A little bigger, 1,200 square feet. And even that, right? I took responsibility in cleaning, making sure the bathrooms are clean, making sure the kitchen was clean, vacuumed. In fact, what I did was I bought one of those robot vacuums to vacuum for me, so I didn't have to spend the time to vacuum. And ultimately, we moved from that to this amazing house, which is 2,400 square feet. So we literally doubled in our square footage. We have 4 bedrooms in this house, 3 bath. And I knew if I were to be responsible with the dorm, I knew I could be responsible with a house like this, right? And same philosophy. If I can be responsible with this house and take care of it, I know I'm going to be awarded, right, with whether it's mansions or nicer homes, whatever it may be. But responsibility starts at the little things, right? The smallest things that you can possibly imagine. And it will gradually take on its form to being responsible with bigger and better things. And when you are responsible with bigger, better things, your paycheck tends to grow, and that people look up to you as a leader, and that you tend to have a bigger amount of influence over people, right? So you got to ask yourself this question, and I'm going to wrap this up here. Ask yourself this question: where in my life have I not been responsible that I should have been responsible? And have I been responsible in my life in that area? Would I have been more successful today? Right? Just ask that question. Right? Ask that question. And if you want to improve, if you feel like you're pretty responsible now, how can I extend my responsibility? How can I increase my sphere of influence to where I can be more responsible for more things? Right? And the more responsible you are, the more trust you can build, the more profit opportunity that you create. It's a simple case in life, right? The president of the United States get paid the way that they get paid because they're responsible for the country, right? The CEO of the company gets paid CEO level salary because they are responsible for the entire company's operation, right? I mean, you look at Jeff Bezos, right? The CEO and founder of Amazon. He gets paid because he was not only responsible for the growth of the company, but the responsibility of making choices about the company itself. So you can see that people who are more responsible, people who extend their responsibility on their own will, tend to get paid more. But not only that, they're more respected, they're trusted more, they have more influence, they're generally more happy, right? So grow your sphere of influence by acting out in responsibility. And that's what it means to take ownership of your life, right? Take ownership of every little detail as possible. Now, when I also mean take ownership, you can hire someone out for that person to take care of certain details, right? When you're a CEO of a company, you don't want to be necessarily clean the hallway. You want to hire someone else to do that. But still, the CEO is responsible for the janitor's well-being and making sure that the janitor shows up, making sure that they get paid well, the compensation, and so forth. So guys, choose extreme ownership. Take ownership of your life, right? Really do. And expand your responsibility radius. And you would start to see massive success in different levels because you have the right to claim it. And we're going to talk about this concept of deserve it factor pretty soon here. I believe it's coming in, I think it's in the day 20 or day 19. We'll definitely talk about that. Yeah. So guys, thank you for saying, I know it's a little late tonight. Thank you guys for joining me. I love your support, love your appreciation. I do this for you guys to grow, really, expand your knowledge and expand who you are, because I truly believe the better you become, the better version you become of yourself, you also improve your business, right? A lot of people think that you get rich first and then you become a nice person. Well, that's not necessarily true. You want to be generally a good person. You want to update yourself. You want to become a better version of yourself so that you can lead your business to a better version of your business, right? Does that make sense? So unless you really improve, you won't really necessarily improve your business. So that's where we're getting at. So guys, let's come back tomorrow for day 6. Got a lot of exciting things for you guys. In fact, tomorrow at 7 o'clock, if you guys want to see a live real estate deal that's being analyzed, That's tomorrow night. So join in tomorrow night at 7 o'clock Central Time as Daniel, my brother, is going to go and analyze a real deal that we're working on. So join us then, 7 o'clock Central Time. We'll have some really cool things to show you guys. So don't miss it. If you do miss it, you're gonna miss out the opportunity to ask us questions about the deals that we're working on. So don't miss it, guys. All right, guys, have a good night. Get good sleep. I need to rest because of this dumb injury that I have. But I'll see you guys tomorrow night. All right, take care.